Maybe I'll never read this to you. Maybe I'm just writing this for me, and maybe that's my responsibility, to live alone with the truth.
All right, let's cut to the chase and talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day, a film that takes place 4 years after Doctor Strange's memory wipe. We're presented with a lonely Spidey who has been doing a great job saving the day and even gets the key to the city, but he's still pining for his friends who have completely forgotten him. After a cute opening montage that I kind of wish had been the focus of an entire film, we're launched into the main plot as Spidey tries to stop a new villain with the power to possess people who's attempting to break into damage control. Spoilers ahead, and let's start by discussing the negatives of this film, and I'll get the minor ones out of the way, like the side characters feeling very underdeveloped. Scorpion comes across like a waste, same with Detective DeWolf, and I felt like those two deserved more screen time, especially Scorpion as Scorpion, not Scorpion possessed by Jean Grey. I also thought Yelena was forced, and I didn't find her scenes that funny. And last but not least, if this is an introduction to Metzger, then that character is fine, and I can't wait to see him as a future threat for the X-Men. But if this is all we have of him, I was pretty disappointed, and I think you should have given Tillman a bigger role. And same with Keith David, why waste him like that? Anyway, on to the main issues I had, and that starts with, I don't like what they did with Jean Grey. The plot is rushed as well as overstuffed, and the ending I thought undermined Peter's growth. Each of these issues, the more I think about it, do drag this film down for me to a 6 out of 10. However, there is still a good 2/3 that weren't entirely ruined by the poor execution. Let's start off with Jean Grey because I don't hate her inclusion. I just want to make that clear. I like her powers, and I found this character to be a good psychopathic villain. A sympathetic one, though, that's where the movie loses me. Her actions don't ever indicate this, and if she wanted to avoid getting innocent people hurt, then why not possess Metzger or another agent of damage control? Why bother messing with Spider-Man and trying to manipulate him? I'm sure if she explained her reasoning to Spider-Man, he would have helped, but she instead comes across as a sadistic prick. It also doesn't work here because the writers have a lot of work to do if they want to make me sympathize with her. And they failed to do that because by that point, she's possessed innocents, even possessed MJ to mess with Peter, had a guy get hit by a car like that dude is dead, and even drives the tank with a bomb inside with the intent for it to blow up. I mean, I didn't mind the fact that she was a full-on villain because I've missed seeing villains who are simply dangerous instead of being misunderstood or morally gray. I thought that we were going to go back to that. Instead, it's a twist reveal and it becomes such a tired trope that the audience can see a mile away. Oh, and her redemption arc is based off of Aunt May talking to her and telling her she matters. That is not only cheesy, but the payoff doesn't work at all. Maybe if she was locked up at the end and wanted to repent of her crimes, then it could have worked, but nope, she gets away scot-free, and it's like the film doesn't want to ever scrutinize her for her actions. And why does Jean do all of this? Well, it's so that she can get her sister back from the quote-unquote real villains. But I kind of side with Damage Control because they are right, she's dangerous. Even the anti-mutants the X-Men face could easily point to the events in this movie on why the world should be afraid of them. The film even wants to make the Punisher feel bad for his actions, and I don't even mind him crying at the end because it kind of works since he feels remorse for almost killing Peter, yet he should have ripped into him for saving Jean, and that would perfectly capture the ideological difference between them. You see, the movie touches on these ideas, but it keeps moving on to the next plot point, or it doesn't fairly address these ideas at all. And that's the film's biggest issue because it is juggling so many different concepts, and Peter accepting his mutation, Jean's redemption arc, Punisher's worldview, the return of Savage Hulk, Peter's loneliness, X-Men's setup, Peter reconciling with his old life, Spidey's relationship with the NYPD, and him pushing himself to be Spider-Man. Each of these are great ideas, and the thing is, though, we don't get enough attention to fully flesh them out because we have to keep moving on to the next thing. Peter's mutation was not only a great theme, but a clear example of something that needed more screen time. Him struggling with the darker side of the mutation and learning to gradually get a grip of his powers was rushed. Compare that to Spider-Man 2, where Peter's conflict is something he gradually comes to deal with. We see him deal with the blockage and learn to accept why he's Spider-Man. And when we get to the rooftop scene, we get this great hurrah moment of him screaming. However, Brand New Day, he just accepts his mutation pretty fast and it doesn't feel like a satisfactory character arc. Instead, he just embraces it and stops a member of the Hand from getting killed. Okay, but I think we're missing a couple of scenes. There's many sequences like this, especially when Punisher puts Spidey in his place about he's not alone by choice and that this is a sentence. That's a great scene and it's interrupted so we can keep moving the plot forward, which is why I believe they should have saved certain plot points for future films in order to give us a better focused narrative. Granted, not all the decisions made in this movie work all that well, because now we get to the worst part, and that's having Ned remember Peter. You see, for most of the film, I believed we were getting a new clean start after No Way Home. Peter still misses MJ and Ned, but he understands that protecting them means living without them. There's a great look he gives MJ, and he notices her injury, which is what solidifies this choice, and that sacrifice is important for Peter's growth and is a perfect setup for a new trilogy. I've always viewed the John Watt films as Peter Parker's high school years, much like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's original comics. Very comical, mixed with some teen angst, but eventually Peter has to grow beyond high school, and college was introduced as a reset even in the comics. Entirely new relationships, new responsibilities, and a more independent version of Spider-Man. Just like what we saw with the Watts films, growing Peter up, and we're now entering new possibilities. I will come clean that I never cared about MJ or Ned, and their absence was something I was welcoming. So when I saw the first trailer for Brand New Day, I immediately got bummed out. But after sitting through the movie, I felt for Peter and saw MJ and Ned not as annoying characters, but for the first time I started to care for them. If No Way Home wasn't enough of a goodbye for these characters, then this was going to be it. We'd see him talk with his neighbor that he stole clothes from, and finally be introducing Harry, Gwen, and Felicia, making this a brand new day and setting the stage for a new trilogy of Spider-Man films. That would most likely end with the Ultimate Spider-Man ending. In order to introduce Miles Morales, or even after this trilogy, we would get a full-scale reboot that everybody would be clamoring for. However, all that went out the window with one scene that I can't stand. Whether Ned remembers Peter completely or not doesn't matter. It's clear that Peter is going to find a way to get back into his friends' lives, and that undercuts not only what I thought this film was setting up, but even the wish at the end of No Way Home. It weakens the consequence made in that previous movie. Despite all of that, I still walked away enjoying this movie more than I disliked it. There is really great chemistry between Punisher and Spider-Man, and I hope we get to see that relationship explored, because it feels like we're only scratching the surface. Hulk also surprised me far more than I expected. And for the first time in a long while, I'm genuinely interested to see where his story goes next. Tom Holland also deserves a lot of credit for his performance. I found him to be the weakest part of the Odyssey and thought he completely rebounded here. His quieter moments carry real emotion, especially whenever Peter's loneliness begins to overwhelm him. One of my favorite scenes is him heartbroken over MJ confronting him about the note and not remembering him. I think Tom is continuing to give a strong argument for why he is the best Spider-Man. I'm also thankful that the movie finally lets dramatic scenes breathe. The tension isn't constantly undercut by unnecessary jokes. Combine that with some genuinely creative action sequences, and those emotional moments become the film's greatest strengths. More than anything, it's Peter's struggle that makes this movie. To me, Spider-Man has always been at his best when he's sacrificing his own happiness in order to save others, while also learning to embrace the role of Spider-Man rather than view it as a burden, which I thought was captured well in those first two acts. But then we reach that ending, and that's where it falls apart, and I wish that they had really perfected a sympathetic villain role for Jean, because I think that that could work. It just doesn't stick the landing. I am curious how I'll feel about it on a rewatch, but for now, it dropped down to a 6 out of 10. And frankly, I hope to see Peter grow as a character. And here's hoping the future films have stronger scripts and we don't have Peter turn into Miles' mentor so that he can give up being Spider-Man and live without responsibility. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like and subscribe. And as always, watch, connect, and grow.